Hello, everyone. We will get started here in just another minute or so. We just hit the hour, and so we'll give people a chance to hop on, and then we'll go ahead and get started with the presentation. Okay. All right. We will go ahead and dive in. Thank you to everybody who registered and joined for this webinar today. ChatGPT, Google AI, and the future of search. We're going to be diving into how B2B brands optimize for the new AI search landscape. My name is Dan Payne. I have been working in B2B marketing for about 15 years now in various demand generation roles, always with SEO as a major part of those roles. And I'm also the founder of Mark Source, which is a demand capture consultancy focused on capturing in-market demand primarily through search and website conversion optimization. And today I'm really excited to dive into a really fundamental shift in the way people search, a really exciting advancement in the world of demand capture, and that is AI search. And so as I go through this, feel free to, there is a Q&A tab on the top right of your screen. Feel free to shoot any questions in as we are going through this. I will try to answer them as we go through it. If not, I'll have a bit of time at the end for any questions that come in at all. Okay, so go ahead and move forward here, and we'll talk through the agenda that we're going to be diving into today. So a few things we're going to be talking about. First thing is a primer on how AI search engines work. Then we'll be talking about how people are using AI search differently than traditional search. Then we'll transition to how to win at AI search to drive pipeline and revenue, because at the end of the day, that's really what we all need to do as B2B marketers, right? Is drive that pipeline, drive revenue, help the business grow. And then finally, we'll talk about how do you measure and monitor success in this new AI search landscape. So that is our agenda for today. So starting with kind of diving in as to how these AI search engines really work and function, I thought it'd be helpful to just kind of step back and start and look at the landscape as far as usage for daily searches as well as prompts by platform. Okay, so I think it's first important to point out, while AI search is an exciting and growing channel, traditional Google search is still the king here. There are 13 to 14 billion daily searches that happen on Google search. And while we want to optimize and take advantage of this emerging channel, it's important not to forget about Google search, as that still is the vast majority of where search activity happens. After that is ChatGPT. ChatGPT in total does have up to 1 billion total prompts that occur in it per day, but about 30% of those are considered to be search-like. So maybe 37.5 million is the estimate that I've seen as far as search-like prompts that take place in ChatGPT. After that, we get Google AI mode. And what Google AI mode is, and I want to make sure you all can see as I shift to the next tab. Okay, let me adjust this. I'm sharing here real quick so you can see that full window as opposed to just the tab. Okay, I will share that. Okay. Great. Looks like you should all be able to see, just Google basically on your screen now. When I'm talking about AI mode, I'm talking about this button here that people can click to activate AI mode and do ChatGPT-like searches within Google. So that has about 3 to 5 million users today. That has been growing and is expected to grow over time as it gets rolled out more and more. And I believe that is the future state of that will be Google's primary search interface at some point in the future. So that should grow over time, but for now it is used to a much lesser extent than traditional Google search. So as we break down, how AI search engines work, we're going to focus on ChatGPT because that's the primary AI search engine today, and Google AI Mode, as Google is really the big player in the space, and I think Google AI Mode will only be more significant over time. And so if we look at how ChatGPT works for search, we'll break it down in this way. So the first thing, user prompts ChatGPT. They ask it a question, right? And the first thing that ChatGPT does is it looks to check its training data to see if it can answer the question with its existing training data. And so ChatGPT basically has a base of training data that's been fed to it from the open web, academic papers, a variety of sources, things like that, to create its base training data and baseline of information. So if you ask it a question, it will try to look at that first. Typically, for more evergreen searches, that is what it will pull from, is that training data. So for example, I have a 7-year-old, poor little guy just broke his toe not too long ago. So if I were to search how to take care of a broken toe for a 7-year-old boy, ChatGPT most likely would pull from its training data because that is kind of an evergreen answer that's not going to change much over time. However, if you ask it a question that it thinks it needs more current information for, and the good news for us as marketers is that typically product queries that involve recommendations for types of products, from what I've seen, typically are ones that will trigger an external search from ChatGPT. It typically feels like it wants to go to the web and find the most recent information to recommend products. So if it's one where it feels like it needs more information than what's in its training data, then what it will do is it will trigger a search, a web search, to pull in that information. And when it was first built, it was relying exclusively on Bing's search API to populate that search information. There has been new data that suggests it's also relying on Google. So there's somebody named Lee McKenzie from Backlinko, who is a great follow on LinkedIn that talks a lot about SEO and AI SEO as well. And he did an experiment where he created a really specific web page that he only allowed to be indexed on Google. No other search engines could crawl it and index it. And then he did a very specific prompt within ChatGPT that would closely match the page that he created. ChatGPT did a web search and then was able to pull that page, which was not indexed in Bing or anywhere else. And so the conclusion from that is ChatGPT is now also crawling Google and using Google results to reference and pull in what it cites. How much it's using Google versus Bing and what the balance is, that's not super clear. But the point is, it does appear to be using both when it's going out and doing a web search and providing information. And the way that it conducts web searches is it basically searches multiple related queries. It does multiple related searches based on your query. So it will search close variants of your query. It will do multiple searches. It will then pull all of that information together. And then the AI within the tool will synthesize that information and provide you a comprehensive answer within ChatGPT. So a few things to know, helpful things to know about ChatGPT for us as marketers. We'll dive into a lot of these as we go throughout the presentation. But some things to know are that it does, when an external search is triggered, ChatGPT does seem to favor more recent content. And the theory behind that is if it can't answer it from its basically training data and it needs to go out for the search, that means that it typically can't answer because it doesn't feel like it has current enough information. So its search tends to be a little bit more biased towards finding new and more recent information. Is typically, how it kind of operates and does things. So you'll see things like, you'll hear recommendations, and these types of things often change over time as the tools get smarter, but things like putting -2025 in the URL for a page that you want to show up in ChatGPT, or 2025 in the header. These are kind of tactics that might increase the odds of a page getting surfaced or referenced because it is tending to bias in favor of trying to find more information when it's doing an external web search. Okay. Other things to know, we'll talk about this more, but listicles are the most commonly cited type of article. So it tends to like listicles that list top solution providers for a particular type of category. And that is often a commonly used source to find when recommending solution providers within a category or to provide or to solve a problem. It also tends to favor user-generated content. Reddit is the most cited source within ChatGPT. Google is increasingly relying on Reddit and increasingly showing Reddit results within both traditional and AI search engines. So user-generated content is a popular content format. And it also tends to favor content that closely matches the specificity of the prompt. Somebody's doing a prompt, you have a web page that really closely answers that question. You give traditional SEO indicators like your title and your headers, your content really focused on that. It's going to be more likely that you're cited as a result within that as a response to that prompt. Okay, so that's a quick primer on how ChatGPT works. If you look at Google AI mode, it works similarly but with some nuance. So you ask a question, you enter your query in Google AI mode. It searches across the Google index for relevant information. So this is a key distinction. Like it does search in a similar way where it does a variety of searches similar to your base query and then kind of does a fan out to try to consolidate information across a website and similar queries. But each time you do it, it searches its index to find that information. So ChatGPT is relying on its training data when it can and just searching when it needs more recent information. Google is always searching. Like there's not, there's not that like base train data that it's using. It searches in each case, okay? And then it does the search and it uses Gemini, which is its AI search engine, to synthesize that information and provide a comprehensive answer in a similar way to how ChatGPT does. So a couple things to know here. It does match, like if you do, the same prompt in Google search as you do in like AI mode, as you do in Google search, it tends to, they tend to kind of show, it tends to match that more closely than ChatGPT will, which makes sense. But it's not as much as you think. And the gap is kind of closing over time as ChatGPT leans on Google more so. I think probably the big distinction is it's a little bit more balanced in that it's not quite as biased toward recent results because there's not that trigger like, hey, you need new information. It's not gonna show you. It will pull in. It does tend to pull in kind of more balanced information as far as like the timeliness of when the content was created. Okay, so that's a quick primer on how the most popular AI search engines work. Now we'll break down how people are using AI search differently than traditional search. Okay, and there's a few key points as far as differences in how people are using AI versus traditional search, okay? So the first point is that people are doing longer searches in AI search, okay? So like your average traditional Google search length is about 3 to 4 words. If you use a B2C example, like somebody might search like best running shoes, as an example in a traditional Google search. A typical AI search or LLM prompt on average is over 20 words. So people in an LLM would search something like, what are the best running shoes for men with flat feet who run on pavement and need extra cushioning? So people are doing longer, more specific, more personalized prompts in LLMs than they do traditional Google search. Second thing that's different is that people are clicking less. So a traditional Google search, you get about 55 to 65% of people that will click through to a website. On an LLM search, that is a much lower, you see a much lower percentage, like less than 10%. And that's particularly true for informational queries. People are spending more time asking questions, asking follow-up questions than the LLM. If it's a question that can be answered just with information, they can often get that all within the LLM without needing to go to an external site. So this is particularly impacting informational queries. There's a big difference in the quantity of clicks to external sites between an AI search and a traditional Google search. But the good news for us as marketers is that people are clicking with more intent. And I know this has been true for me too. A couple of So a couple of case studies or data that was shared recently on LinkedIn. Webflow, the large web CMS provider, they're seeing 6 times higher conversion rates from LLM visits compared to traditional organic search. And Ahrefs is seeing 23 times higher conversion rates from LLM visits as compared to traditional organic search. So often, kind of the behavior you typically see is people doing their research within the LLM, getting a lot of their questions answered, and then often coming to the site when they're ready to take an action with a much higher level of intent. I know that's been true of my own behavior as well. So people are clicking less, but they're coming to the site with more intent to take an action, which, trade-off in either direction, but I think is pretty exciting for us as marketers if we can attack it in the right way. The other thing is people are searching more. So in Google's most recent investor results, they said that when an AI overview is present, and there's a little bit of nuance here because there's AI overviews, which are these kind of long form responses that are shown at the top. And then there's AI mode, which is like their ChatGPT like interface. So there's a kind of a distinction there within Google. When an AI overview is present, they're seeing an increase in search queries from that user by about 10%. So it's not exactly the same thing as if they were doing it within AI mode, but I think it is indicative that like when AI is there, I know this has been true of my own behavior as well, people are tending to search more. They're asking follow-up questions. They're gathering a variety of information within the LLM itself before taking the next step. So search volume is up, at least from what Google is sharing in a recent investor call. Okay, so how does this impact marketers? I think a few key things to be aware of or be ready for as marketers. I think number one, and I think a lot of people are seeing this is universally true, but I think in general true, organic traffic from search engines is likely to go down. We saw the difference in click-through rates, and I think that's particularly true for informational queries. So if you have if you're a payroll provider, if you just have how to do payroll as a small business, that type of search is tending to get consumed by AI mode at a higher rate than bottom of the funnel searches. And those tend to be searched more. Those tend to be big traffic drivers. So I think we should expect to see organic traffic go down in net. I think we should also expect to see attribution is going to get harder, which is not good news because attribution has been a problem that has not been cleanly solved for us in the marketing world for many, many years. It's an ongoing struggle. But you see a lot of people do a lot of their discovery process or buying journey within the LLM, and then they might go directly to a site without clicking the link within the LLM, or they might do a Google search separate from that and get to the site that way. It's often not as clean as if somebody was doing the whole journey within Google search and clicking a link to the site, which consistently passes clean UTM information to something like Google Analytics. So there are ways to evolve this, but attribution, I think we should expect to get more challenging. But the good news is I think we should expect web conversion rates to go up for the reason that I mentioned earlier, which is that people are coming to websites from LLMs with more intent to take action and convert. So I think those are 3 key impacts for marketers that we should expect to see, okay? So we reviewed how LLMs work. We reviewed changes in usage between traditional search and LLM search. Now we're going to take a look at, okay, how do we win an AI search? What should our strategy and approach be to drive pipeline and revenue from AI search as B2B marketers? So we'll kind of dive into that. I have a set of very tactical tips to share, things that we can take away and that we can apply in our jobs, to help attack and achieve our goals. So try to keep this really tactical for everyone. And the first thing that I want to call out here is that people are winning at AI search. Like this is, I think, a real opportunity. In my opinion, this isn't something that's hyped. I think this is a real shift in search behavior. And there are multiple documented examples of people really, truly driving pipeline and revenue through AI search. So here's some examples that I've seen recently of people that are having success here. So a company called Help Scout shared on LinkedIn recently that AI search was recently their #2 self-reported attribution channel. So self-reported attribution, that means if you have a "how did you hear about us" field on your high intent like demo forms, people searching something that would indicate that it's from AI search. So that was their #2 self-reported attribution channel in a recent month. Webflow, who we talked about earlier, this is a large company. They mentioned it's driving 8% of all their signups. I was talking to a marketing leader at a over $10 million B2B SaaS company recently, and they had mentioned that AI search was up to their #4 self-reported attribution channel. And then Ahrefs, the large SEO company, it drove 12% of all of their signups in a recent month. And then a company called Vercel shared this. This was pretty interesting. They showed the growth in signups from ChatGPT over time. So September 2024, less than 1% of their signups. March 2025, about 5%. April 2025, about 10%. And then June 2025, they mentioned that is continuing to grow. So we're still early on this, but we're seeing people rely on tools like ChatGPT and AI search to get product recommendations. And we're seeing companies really start to see this grow into an impactful channel as a part of their marketing mix. Another example I share, this was a post that was shared on LinkedIn from a company called Missive. And they actually shared that July, AEO, answer engine optimization, that's another term for AI search optimization, that was their almost caught up to search and was their second highest self-reported attribution channel. They were thinking that July may be the month that it passes traditional search as far as the number of self-reported attribution signups. So I wanted to basically say, like, people are really winning here. This is a real thing. This isn't just hype. People are seeing results and success in this. And so we'll talk more about what that looks like here on the coming slides. So tip #1, as we transition into the tips, #1, this is a fairly basic one, but I think is paramount to success in marketing more generally, and then in AI search more specifically. But tip #1, know your ideal customer profile, make it clear who you serve. There's more context, there's more personalization happening in searches. So writing specifically for the ways that your ideal customer are using your product, making your positioning clear, making it clear who you serve, how they use you, diving into those, that is paramount to giving these AI search engines the context to know who they should recommend you for and when. So understanding your ICP, creating content for them, making that clear on your website, who you serve and how you serve them, really the foundation for success here, and arguably in marketing probably more generally. Tip #2, and this would be my #1 most tactical tip that people can apply to attack this opportunity, would be to target the long tail bottom of the funnel with your content. And so basically what I have here is a representation of the traditional kind of the traditional like search waterfall, or kind of search usage graph. Basically what this is showing is like so this looks at number of searches by query. And so the highest volume of searches that you have tend to be for shorter queries. So things like shoes, that will have that has been said in search to be like, that's your fat head of search. These, those are terms that get the most queries. Then you go to the chunky middle. These are shorter searches. So things like running shoes, still volume, not as much as your fat head, but like, as you get a little bit more specific, there's still a lot of volume there. But then the majority of all searches that happen on the web are what's called the long tail. So these are longer, these are kind of longer, more specific searches. Individually, there's not a ton of volume to them, but in aggregate across all of them, this makes up the bulk of all search volume is long tail searches. And so that was true in traditional search, but it's even more true in AI-based search, that people are really leaning into the long tail of search and doing personalized, high intent, longer searches in LLMs. And so the way I think to attack this is to try, well, I'll share a couple examples of how, well, I think the way to attack this is to create as many long tail bottom of the funnel pages as you can. So going back to the first slide, understanding your ICP, creating pages for all of your different personas, for all the different use cases that they have around your product, creating competitive comparison pages, creating category pages for all of your different personas and use cases. It's these high intent, long tail pages that give opportunity to be recommended for those longer, more specific searches in ChatGPT, in ChatGPT and in LLMs. So I'll share a couple of success quotes around people who have taken this approach. I'll show you some examples of how they're doing this. So on LinkedIn, a company called VP of Marketing from a company called Clue shared, our organic pipeline increased 40% quarter over quarter because we're investing in long tail terms and content format that help us show up in AI search, where you're seeing steady quarter over quarter gains and self-reported attribution on our demo form that buyers are finding us via AI search. Okay, so this is an example of she mentioned long tail terms and content formats. We'll talk about content formats here in a minute. But to give you an example of some of the things that I think they're doing well from looking at their site, this is their core product page right here, but they have different broken out product pages for each of their core personas. So it kind of makes it clear, hey, here are the different people that we serve. Here are the use cases for those different personas. Here's how they're using us. And it has specific pages broken out by persona with detailed information on use cases, how they're using the solution by persona. So it gets more specific than one general page. And then if you look at the articles on their site, if you look at their blog, I think some things they do well. They're creating content for specific personas. So how product marketing managers, so this is a specific use case, how product marketing managers can help sellers win better follow-up. So that's specific to a persona they serve, product marketing managers, showing them a specific job to be done. So that's a good example of targeting a specific job to be done, bottom of the funnel use case. And then they also talk about they also go into specific use cases in detail around the product, how to generate a battle card, use cases around like win-loss analysis. So these are all ways that they're showing how their personas can use the product to accomplish goals that gives them opportunities to match up with more of those long tail queries. Okay. And then, another example, we talked about missive earlier. Another example is, so those are good examples of targeted demo pages by personas, jobs to be done pages. Other examples of content are like competitive comparison, alternative content. This is good bottom of the funnel content that tends to convert at a higher rate than something that you would see as a more general piece of content. So those are other good examples that I've seen other companies that are winning in this space too. And then another kind of quote that I'll share around the value of doing, of the long tail high intent search approach. This comes from Josh Bleixall, who is an answer engine optimization strategist at Profound. Profound is a software provider in the AI search answer engine optimization space. So he had a quote on a recent Siege Media podcast that said, hey, how do we win for the next year or two in AI search? His recommendation: map every use case to a landing page for the same product. So breaking out different use cases by personas for the same product into individual pages. Long tail landing pages are a great evergreen way to stay ahead, because there's always going to be that moment when the answer engine just needs to, at the baseline, know which solution exists in the industry. So this goes back to the point earlier of long tail searches. The more closely you can match with the way that somebody's prompting an LLM, the more likely you are to be recommended as a solution for that. So the more pages that you have showing different use cases for the same product, the more likely you are to be recommended for a more specific prompt that somebody is doing in an LLM. That's kind of the idea here. And I think this is the lowest hanging fruit way that you can kind of attack the opportunity with LLM search. Long tail, bottom of the funnel, niche down, get really specific in your content to try and match the way that people are using and searching in LLMs. Tip number 3, get active on Reddit and other UGC forums. So this is from Statista, I believe, and this shows the top 10 web domains cited by LLMs in June 2025. Reddit being number 1. So they tend to, LLMs tend to like user-generated content, and Google has been favoring user-generated content as well. Reddit is an interesting untapped opportunity and channel. It's one where people are organized into niches based around interests and having real conversations around those. So that is a big opportunity for B2B marketers. It's just one where you have to really lean into being a real person. Like, if you're contributing, you need to contribute in a way that feels like you're a real person, that you're really adding value. Subreddit, Reddit, each subreddit has a moderator that establishes a set of rules. You can upvote and downvote, information and comments that are in contributions that people are putting in. So there's a lot of sensitivity to blatant marketing and selling within the platform. So as long as you're getting in there and adding value in the context of the questions people are asking, you should be fine. But don't use it as a very clear over the top marketing channel. So that's the recommendation that I would say there. And the other kind of value of this is that I mentioned these LLMs will kind of look across the web at multiple different sources to pull together a picture of who the top vendors are. So your website should still be your primary focus. You control the message and the narrative on that. And if you're indexed, you can still show up and be recommended. But the more places that you show up, including in user-generated forums, the more places it sees you, the more signals that you're giving, hey, this is a valuable solution provider for the particular use case that is being prompted for here. Okay. Tip number 4, create and target content that is already being cited. So basically create a set of high intent prompts, look what's being cited, and reach out to the websites to get added. I got a question that just came in here that I'll ask. Do product comparison pages like G2 influence AI search results? Yes, they do. That's a very timely question. I'll show you an example right here. If you have a set of high intent prompts you want to rank for, and I'll show you a tool that can kind of help you formulate what that is, then you can see what's being cited and you can kind of reach out to those providers and or create your own piece of content like that. So I created one here. This is the prompt was, what are the best payroll software providers for entrepreneurs with less than 10 employees that are budget conscious? Okay, that was the prompt. And so it pulls out a variety of recommendations. Then you can see the source that it's used. You can see the sources that it's using to reference that. Okay, so if we look at this piece of content right here that it's referencing, this is a listicle format article. So like cheapest payroll services for businesses. So you look here, these are all, this is a list similar to G2 of top providers for that type of a service. So it leans heavily on like that type of article is a listicle type of article. And so it leans heavily, it's actually for most cited type of content in AI search, about 33% of cited content comes from listicle style articles. So these are like category pages that would be like, like this, like best cheap payroll services for businesses. Okay. And G2 would be another example of that, as like a category page that lists providers. So this is actually a really favored and relied upon type of content within the AI search engine. So a tactical recommendation, come up with a list of prompts. I'll show you a tool that can kind of help you figure out what those might be here in a bit. But come up with a list of prompts, look at what is being cited, and then what you can do, like some of these are pay to play. So like, I think Merchant Maverick, I'm assuming, this looks like the type of thing where you may be able to pay to get yourself listed, where you may be able to pay to get yourself listed. And so you can go in, you can figure out, hey, how do I get myself on the site? You can reach out to the website, and you can do, if it's pay to play, you can pay to get yourself listed. If it's not, you can do some type of value exchange. Like, hey, I'll do a, we have a podcast, we have a webinar series, we can feature you on that. We can do a link back to your site as well. Some type of value exchange to get listed on these types of pages that are being pulled in for these citations can be a way to show up. It can be a way to help you get cited more often, looking at the source and getting listed on those. Similarly, you can create your own type of content like this. So you can create your own listicle articles. You can create your own competitive comparison articles, the type of content that gets favored. And then you increase your chances of being cited and being able to drive the narrative that these AI search engines are using in their results because they're pulling from your own piece of content. And then the other thing that I'll call out is these LLM tools tend to like chunkable content. So content that provides quick answers to specific questions that enables it to pull in and cite it cleanly. So formatting content on things like your product pages in a way that's easy for these AI search engines to consume will be a helpful win as well. Tip number 5, pretty basic one. Make sure your content gets indexed in both Google and Bing. Really fundamental one, but you're not going to show up if you can't be found. So easy ways to do this: Google Webmaster Tools, Bing has Bing Webmaster Tools. You can make sure that you're getting indexed. You can even, you can even put a sitemap in there that gets updated over time, that's continuously feeding those search engines your new content that AI search can then pull in and reference as you're getting indexed. So make sure at a fundamental level you're indexed in both Google and Bing. Tip number 6, create cool stuff that gets talked about in the market. This just goes back to the idea that stuff that is, the more you're talked about in different sources throughout the web, the more likely you are to be referenced as a relevant solution provider, okay? So creating cool stuff that gets talked about in the market, you're linked and referenced for more places, you're talked about, those are more indicators to AI search. You're a relevant and valued provider for that prompt and query. And then tip number 7, this is not an AI search specific one, but more a recommendation for the overall goal of driving pipeline and revenue from AI search, but remove friction in your conversion process when people are coming to your website. People are coming to sites from AI search with a higher level of intent than they were before. So these are big opportunities to convert people. So a few tactical things that I really like to do. One, make sure you have automated calendaring on your demo form. So like Chili Piper, Calendly, things like that. Make sure that is available so people can schedule while you have their attention. You don't need to break that conversion loop by waiting for them to get a follow-up email that they might miss. Give them the ability to schedule on your site while you have that attention. It's worth it, I think, to increase, if you're worried about qualification, you can add some more questions on your form to provide that. Another one, chatbots. I'm a fan of chatbots. It gives people the opportunity to convert from any page on your website. You can also trigger somebody to come in live if there's levels of intent. Like if you have a BDR team, they can jump in if somebody meets your qualification criteria to get a chat. You give people the opportunity to get questions answered and get supported in real time while you have their attention and convert from any page on the website. I'm a fan of that as well. So those are 2 tactical pieces of technology that I like that tend to be quick lifts for conversion in my experience. All right, last section here is how to measure success. What does that look like, measuring success around AI search? So I have 3 quick and basic tips for you. Number 1 is add self-reported attribution to your demo forms. So on your high intent forms, your demo forms, just add a field. It should be a free form field where people can type it in. How did you hear about us? And then enable people to type that in. Most of the examples that I share to people that are winning at AI search, those were pulled from self-reported attribution. How did you hear about us fields? So that is a great way to make sure you're capturing the true source, particularly if somebody is like using ChatGPT, going through the buyer journey, then they're going to your site by typing the URL in directly or doing a Google search to go to your homepage. That helps to capture that information and reduce the risk of there being a broken kind of tracking backlog, or a broken kind of sort of tracking journey. So add self-reported attribution to your demo forms, probably number one tip I offer. Second would be monitor referral traffic in Google Analytics. So historically, ChatGPT has been kind of inconsistent about this, but more recently, they are adding UTM tracking. So if you see here, source was ChatGPT from the citation that I clicked. So I think more recently, they're adding this pretty consistently. So you can create sort of segmented reports within your Google Analytics that group together AI search and look at the traffic that you're getting directly from the search. So people are clicking directly in the search. Look at how that trends over time. Look at how that converts. You can create segments within Google Analytics that looks at that. So I would recommend doing that as well. And the third thing would be tracking brand citations, mentions, and competitive benchmarking. There's a variety of tools you can do that on now. One that I like is called Otterly. So there's an example here that I put in from a company that I used to work for previously. Basically, the way that this works is as you're starting, as you're setting up Otterly for a particular account, you can put in your website, and then it will crawl the site and it will come up with a variety of recommended high intent prompts based upon your web content. You can also manually put in prompts that you think would be relevant to you as well, and create a comprehensive list of prompts that you want to track. Then from there, what you can do is you can look at, then from there, what you can do is then you can look at how do you stack up in comparison to your competitors, right? So for all of the different prompts, how often you mention, what's your share of voice, what's your brand position, how do you compare to your competitors over time, how does that change, who are the leaders in the space, what are your most cited URLs, and you can get some competitive benchmarking compared to your competition. Specifically, you can go in as well, and you can look at specific prompts and see, it will show you the text output for the prompt. It will show you who is cited and recommended. So this is an easy way, going back to earlier where I said, hey, do a prompt, do a representative prompt, look at who's being cited and reach out to them. Use a tool like this, then you can see everybody that's being listed and prompted on in here. You can see everybody that's being referenced. So you have a list of folks that you can reach out to, who is being referenced most commonly. And then you can kind of look at that over what's the sentiment. You can look at that and kind of track that over time as well. So this is a way of kind of tracking overall, like how are you doing in AI search? How are you doing relative to your competitors? How often are you showing up, both in aggregate as well as specific prompts? So Otterly is that tool. It's one I like. It's relatively affordable. There's a free trial for you to try it out. There's a variety of other tools that enable you to be able to do that as well. But that's one that I like. Okay, cool. So in the last few minutes, one thing that I want to share here is that AI search, as I mentioned, I think is a big and exciting opportunity for marketers to go after. It's also a lot to wrap your head around. How do you go after it? How do you optimize for this? So I did want to announce that at MarketSource, we are launching a dedicated AI search service with the goal of enabling companies to unlock pipeline and revenue through AI search. 3-step process. You start with the full AI search audit, customer interviews, content audit, visibility tracking. We put together an AI search optimization strategy, and then supports you with either ongoing execution and content creation or ongoing advisory support. So happy to launch that here on this webinar and support companies that are looking to grow pipeline and revenue through AI search. So if you'd like to learn more, you can schedule a follow-up intro call at marksource.com, or I just activated a link within the chat in the offer section on the top right that has a direct link to where you can book an intro call if you want to learn more about what that might look like for you and for your company if you want to have some support in attacking this opportunity. So that is what I got for you. We're just at about time here. Looks like one other question came in. AI search results / inclusion biased against AI created or AI written content like blogs that are written with, good question. Not to my knowledge. I haven't seen any data or evidence that would suggest that they're biased against content that's written or created by ChatGPT. So I haven't seen any evidence of that personally. I think ultimately the thing that I always lean on when it comes to, like using AI for content creation is it comes back to like, what's the quality of the content? So, if you're providing, like if AI enables you to provide quality, relevant content in response to something that somebody might be searching for, I don't see a reason, and I haven't seen, again, any evidence of this, that it would be biased against that. So as long as it's creating something that's legitimately a good experience, I think you should be fine in that regard. Some things that I like to do when it comes to using, when it comes to using tools like that for content creation, I guess a few tips that I'll give on that. Like some things that I like to do. So we did this webinar here, right? So we have now 45 minutes worth of content. Basically taking this, you have a transcript, you have a lot of context from this, taking this, exporting the transcript, and then importing, and then giving that to Claude or ChatGPT, and telling it, hey, go through this, create a variety of social media posts for me, create a blog post on these topics, format them in this way. So creating something that's like, where you have a base of content from somebody that's presenting or talking about something, and then prompting it to pull content from that's done in your voice and similar to the way that you talk, I think is a good use case to create quality written content. The other thing I found is the quality of the content is often based on the quality of the prompt, kind of like garbage in, garbage out sort of thing. So the more context that you can give a tool like that. So like, here are examples. Like if I was to ask it, hey, write me some LinkedIn posts based upon this presentation, do it in my voice. Here's examples of 5 posts that I like. And then you can also say things like, don't do, the not this, but that way that it tends to write. Don't use jargon. Don't use this. Like the more context you can provide it, and the more specific you can be in your prompts, tends to be the higher quality output that you get, in my experience. So good question there. Good questions as well overall. So with that, we're a couple minutes over time here, but I just wanted to thank everybody that joined for this presentation. And I also want to commend everyone for wanting to dive in and learn more about this topic. I think this is a really exciting opportunity in demand capture. And as I shared earlier, people really are, when they're doing this right, this really is a growing and emerging and exciting channel for us as marketers. So I think well done wanting to dive in and learn more about this topic. So thank you again for the time, and I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of the day.